Sheriff Ozzie talks with community leaders about issues in the public safety arena. Sponsored by River Ridge Hardware.
This is Sheriff Ozzie with the Sheriff's Report. Today we're going to break things up a little. I have Kent Adams with me in the studio. For those of you who are listening on radio, we're going to be reviewing a book I just published. The title is The Price of Honor, Are We Who We Say We Are? And Ken's going to talk a little bit about the book, ask me some questions, and you know, we've talked about this over the last 4 years because...
I was going to say, it's been not just 1 year. You've been working on this. And as we talked earlier of what you wanted to cover and so forth, it sounds very familiar. It really are the topics that you've covered the last 3 and 4 years, all the way through in terms of your opinions and facts and so forth. I've got to ask the question, why become an author at this point? Why put it down in a book?
You know, I think that the thing that really drove me, and you know, Vinny, if you want to go to the second slide after the introduction there, the Price of Honor. The second slide really wraps it up as far as what pushed me to write the book. And for those that are listening on radio, this slide deals with the fact that on July 7th, 2016, I really had a fundamental change. Not so much change in my philosophies or beliefs or anything, but a change in we can no longer sit back and let a false narrative be driven in this country.
Right.
Because as a result of that false narrative, on 7/7/2016, there were 5 Dallas police officers that died because of radicalized hate.
Yes.
And fear. And I just don't want to see that happen anymore. And we're right back into that cycle.
Yes, we are.
You know, the governor of Wisconsin yesterday, without knowing any facts about an officer-involved shooting, stepped up and made some just amazingly dumb comments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to say it. You know, to say that police officers are out there mercilessly killing people.
Ridiculous.
I was dumbfounded that an elected official would go to that level without knowing any facts. And we as a nation need to step back and go, you know, time out. We don't know the facts. And let's remember Ferguson. Because what they told you about Ferguson didn't happen.
Yeah.
And we found that out. And we found that out way too late.
But some of the old narrative still is around, though. People are pushing it, aren't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and the media keeps bringing it back. And it's like, that is a false narrative, folks.
Right.
What they told you happened in Ferguson did not happen that way. Right. That police officer was actually attacked by Mr. Brown. That Mr. Brown at one point had that police officer's gun pointed at the police officer. Yeah. He was able to get his gun back.
And what would you do as an average citizen if that happened to you?
You'd be fighting for your life.
Yes, exactly. That's my point.
Yes.
That's my point. I think back to, what was it, 2016, 7/7/16 that you were talking about. We also had a president who kind of took off after that and really didn't support the blue.
After Ferguson, he didn't. In 2014, he had ample opportunity to show the true leadership that I was hoping that he would.
Yeah.
Because he was perfectly positioned to heal this nation.
Yes.
But instead, we've gone back 50 years
yeah.
when it comes to race relations. And there are some people who go, oh my God, you didn't just say that. Yeah, I did just say that. We have. We are talking the way we did back when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
I listened to those discussions. I listened to the way things were.
I remember it in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, I do. And we're back there.
We are.
Worse than ever, I think, in a lot of ways in some communities. Fortunately, not so bad in Spokane area. But still, you only have to go 297 miles west
Yes.
to see what's going on. And what is it, 350 miles southwest of Portland and other cities on the West Coast, all run by Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay? That does say something loud and clear.
And it is truly chilling to watch ourselves. We have really divided this nation into tribes.
Yeah.
And that is the reason we are losing in every arena there is. We're losing this battle against COVID because we're so divided.
Yes.
We're losing the battle to overcome the race issues in this country because we are so divided. We don't want to talk to each other. We will say we want to talk to each other, but we don't. And we don't want to even listen to a counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Please
No, I
don't
think
bring
you're right. I think you're
don't
right.
bring me a counterpoint.
Right. But let's all get along.
Yeah, but there's no such thing as getting along.
Yeah.
That is not the way it is. So the reason I wrote the book was I was tired of watching my nation pull itself apart.
Right.
At the same time, I wanted to explain, because the false narrative out there is that law enforcement officers are never held accountable. That is not true. We do our best to hold law enforcement officers accountable at the leadership level. However, there's a system that prevents us from getting there and doing it.
And you've been fighting that system over the years.
I have.
Yeah.
And, the book is about my journey in trying to change that system and, what it almost cost.
Yeah.
And, in the book I talk about, facing the dark reality of your own professional career ending.
Yes.
Because you stood up. Well, I've always had the belief, and you've heard me say this multiple times in conversations, in interviews.
Right.
Too many politicians out there worry about getting reelected.
Yes.
We don't do things in the Spokane community because we're afraid that if we ask the people for more tax money to fix this system, we won't get reelected.
Yes.
My opinion is you get reelected by showing people that
Leadership.
you are going to do something, and you actually do it.
Right.
You don't say it, you actually take the steps to get it done.
Yeah.
And I have told that to many, many of my elected peers,
Right.
that you don't have to worry about getting reelected. Because if you
do
keep
the right
going,
thing.
if you keep going down this path, you're not going to get reelected.
Right.
Because people are tired of nothing happening. People are tired of criminals walking the streets, and they just don't seem to get that.
Yeah.
So that's the book. That's the why behind the book.
I've got to ask, as you sit down to do this the last 3 or 4 years, and I know you've really been at it the last 6 months or so as you put things together, what joy have you gotten out of doing it? What resonated with you as you... Because you've had to say some tough things, and I know that.
I have.
I know that of you. But can you step back and go, there was a time when I was writing this chapter or that I really felt this might make a difference?
There were. There were also a lot of times, Kent,
Yeah.
that reliving that was like,
No.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
That's why I went the other side to talk about the good things, okay?
Yeah. So, but not only did I write about the experience, but I also put in leadership points.
Yes.
I kind of turned the experience into a leadership how-to.
Okay, good.
Some of the things that I learned or were reinforced during this experience that I really think leaders at any level, and within law enforcement, politics, business even, you really need to think about. And those leadership moments are throughout the book. One of them, Benny, if you want to put up the slide that says leadership moments, states, a leader has to be willing to be criticized for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, some people, what do you mean, be criticized for doing the right thing? Oh, yeah, you can be.
Oh, yes.
You know, this case in point, you're trying to maintain the values and standards of a profession, and you actually come under attack for that. And you have to be, as a leader, you have to be comfortable with that. You have to be willing to step up and go, all right, yeah, there are going to be people that want to come at me for the stand, but you know, it's the right thing.
And people have, but what amazes me is, based on what you just said a couple minutes ago to all the politicians out there, and every single one of them worries about re-election. Let's face it, it's not a few of them, or if they do it, it's about re-election. And the incumbent always has the advantage, basically, unless they've done something really stupid or whatever. But the fact is, you've done that. You've taken that leadership, and I would be hard-pressed to think off the top of my head right now of any other politician, because you're an elected
I am.
position, who has the support of the community like you do. And you can look at polls, yes, but the best poll is election night. And you've always been around that 85%, okay? Yeah. I don't know of many other politicians on one side or the other if you get into partisan and so forth, but you've taken positions and it hasn't hurt you.
No, and I think it's because people know that if I take a position, it's something that I truly believe in.
Yeah.
I can back it up.
Yeah.
And I've had people actually come up and say, you know, I don't agree with you on this one, but there's one thing I know, that I can trust that there's a reason.
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
I may not agree with it, but I know there's a reason, and
But you may have them thinking about it now too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, you know, part of the other part of the book is, you know, how did we get where we're at?
Yeah.
How do we get where we at as a nation, where truth, integrity, all those things we used to really take for gospel, that this is how we live, these are our standards.
Yeah.
How do we get to where
knowing that
it
we're
doesn't
imperfect
matter?
Human beings,
Yeah.
but I mean, yes.
How do we get to where it doesn't matter anymore? How does it get to we can actually watch politician electeds be a lie, and we're willing to continue to vote for them?
Yeah.
How does that work? And you know, there's this concept called the continuum of compromise. You start letting your values erode, and pretty soon you're on the slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
And that compromise, you're willing to start compromising all your values.
Right.
And for us in the state of Washington, that happened in about 2007 with a Supreme Court case.
Yes.
That stated that basically lying is protected speech under the First Amendment.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's Chapter 2. Chapter 2 talks about the damage the Washington State Supreme Court has done to the political atmosphere in the state of Washington and the law enforcement standards in the state of Washington. Chapter 2 is titled, The First Amendment is Protected by Lying? And that's a question. And the second subtitle to Chapter 2 is, So You're Telling Me a Police Officer Can Lie? Now, those are two things that the Washington State Supreme Court actually came out in two separate different rulings.
Wow.
And, you know, under the first one, the First Amendment protects lying. I totally agree with the dissent. So, Vinny, I'm on the slide that says the First Amendment protects lying.
He's got it.
But the dissent, the justices for the dissent said this, Kent. Unfortunately, the majority's decision is an invitation to lie with impunity. They say a whole bunch more about that, but I think we can just rest right there. So in the state of Washington, during a campaign, we're running against each other. I can put a lie out about you. And because of social media, and this is the part that
which goes out and can never be replaced.
Exactly.
Yes.
The court really didn't factor in because during that time social media wasn't that big. But social media, I put that out about you, you will spend the rest of your campaign fighting that lie. And there are politicians in this area that run off that strategy. We will spread a lie. We'll keep them off balance. We'll keep them off their message.
Right.
And that's all we have to do. And
it's shameful. It really
is. It used to be called defamation.
Yeah.
But no, it's protected speech now.
Yeah.
The state of Washington, state Supreme Court, did that. And we wonder why kids nowadays, situational ethics.
Yeah.
I'm honest as long as it fits what I need.
Right.
And it's not so much
there are no
kids.
consequences.
It's not so much kids nowadays. It's pretty much everybody. I mean, we talk in my graduate level classes. We talk about the postmodern era, which they say we're in. Which, in the postmodern era, truth doesn't have a place. There's no such thing as truth. Now, Benjamin Franklin and our founding fathers made it very clear. A republic will never stand if it does not have character at its base, if it does not have truth at its base. Will never be able to stand. And why is that? Because if you do not have truth, people do not know what to believe in anymore.
Right.
And you have a media that has abandoned that. You have politicians who have abandoned that. And society as a whole, I'm afraid, is starting to fade in as far as its standards. So we have to really worry about where we're going as a nation if we expect to continue to have the freedoms that we have, because there are some forces that would like to take us a different direction. And for all those people that think socialism and Marxism is so great, why don't you go take a look or do me a favor. Go talk to any one of our citizens that live in this county that came from a socialist country, and you ask them their opinion about that. And they will tell you very, very rapidly, never let...
They left that for here.
They left that because they had nothing, and it was tyranny. And if you don't think that that's what's going to happen, folks, take a look at Chaz, whatever you want to call it, that happened over in Seattle. It immediately devolved into who had the strongest power. And it evolved into that tyranny base.
Well, and the city essentially showed absolute weakness.
Very much so.
Yeah.
There was no leadership. So, Vinny, next slide. The second question on there, so you're telling me a police officer can lie.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the Supreme Court said. Because the Supreme Court, in a ruling on a hearing they took up concerning an arbitration case out of Kitsap County, made two definitive statements that really hurt law enforcement leaders in the state. One was there's really no firmly established public doctrine that says a police officer has to tell the truth, which shocked us all.
Yeah.
I mean, at the academy level,
of all people you would expect,
we learned immediately.
Yeah.
If you lie, you were done.
Yeah.
You had no place in this profession if you lied.
Right.
When I was an FTO, the first statements I gave a new rookie was, "You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make them. We know you're going to make them. You're human.
I was going to say, yes.
You will survive most of those mistakes as long as you do one thing. Tell the truth.
Yes.
Because the minute you lie, I will ensure that you're gone." And I couldn't believe when I when I saw that come out of the state Supreme Court, I was like, how? How do we get to that? Because that's not what we're taught. And there's RCWs actually say that police officers have, truth is imperative. But they went with that. The next thing they said was basically, arbitrator's decision is final. We don't want to hear it anymore.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. And some people say, no, well, Sheriff, you can appeal. Good luck with that. Good luck in trying.
Really?
Because it is almost near impossible. I know, I've tried.
Yeah.
And my attorney on multiple times. It got to the point I went, don't tell me. I know.
Yeah.
But we're still going to try. All right? We're still going to give it the old college effort.
Right.
Let's give it a shot. But that's the way it was. And, throughout the book, we step through how all this evolves. So the next chapter is titled The Fatal Flaw. Now, this is about an arbitration decision that involved a deputy who had committed a crime, and during the investigation and during the Laudermill hearing, gave me this answer when I asked, well, how did that knife end up in the seat? And he said, well, I either stabbed it in the seat, or I threw the knife in the car, it stuck in the seat, and I forced it all the way in, or I just threw it in and it stuck. I said, let me get this straight. You're giving me an A, B, and C answer?
Mm-hmm. Whichever one works best for you, Ozzie.
And I'm like, I sent him out of the room with his union official going, maybe they can talk some sense into him because that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Came back, same thing. So I terminated them. And the arbitrator found that, yeah, he did all these things. And he blamed everybody else, never took responsibility. And she said that this is a bad character trait in anyone. This is a quote. It is potentially a fatal flaw in a law enforcement official.
Yes.
End quote. And it is. But she still gave him his job back.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah. Why do I think that's where you were going with it?
And the next one involved a corrections deputy. And, when this one happened, the sergeant looked at the corrections deputy because apparently in the past, other administrations had turned a blind eye to this person's shenanigans. And the sergeant looked at him and went, one thing you need to understand, this administration, and this is a quote, this administration will not tolerate such behavior because we are to be professional at all times. End quote.
Okay, that's pretty loud and clear to me.
And in this one, the arbitrator, once again, found that we, did our job right, that he did all these things as a joke, and still gave his job back to him. The other side of that is I actually took this down to our U.S. attorney, had him review it because these were substantial civil rights violations. Substantial. And I was told this, well, you did your job, Ozzie. You fired him. We're not going to do anything. However, if you hadn't done what you did, we'd have been all over you.
Yeah.
And those words still ring in my ears today.
So you go through all this process, and you end up the only one you're really protecting is yourself, not the citizens out there.
Well, apparently, because I was like, all right, so if I hadn't fired him, you would have come after me. And folks, here's the ramifications of that. As a law enforcement leader, if you turn a blind eye to these type of issues, you can actually go to prison. I don't think a lot of people get that, Kent.
Yeah.
Again, it's that narrative that law enforcement's never held accountable. There's no accountability. Let me tell you, there is accountability. And for a supervisor, you had better learn it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And for a CEO of a law enforcement agency, you better know it, that your failures to supervise or retain somebody that negligently, that can put you in prison.
My guess is that you come across this maybe not in that kind of form or as heavy as that often, where there's, okay, this person needs consulting, this person needs some talking to, or we will have our day sitting across the table.
Right.
You and your senior leadership.
Yes. Sadly...
Because we're all human. We all do dumb things. Sometimes we think it's funny, and it's not. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seen my share of things.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Vinny's giving me the 2-minute warning.
Okay.
So one of the things that in the book also talks about how my peers at my own association level basically sold all 39 of us sheriffs out. Because when we ran these bills to change the law, all 39 sheriffs of the state of Washington said, you know, we want to pass a bill that says law enforcement officers should not be able to commit crimes on duty, nor should they be able to lie.
Right.
And an arbitrator should not be able to overturn our decisions if we have done our jobs, followed all the labor laws, proven the case, and the arbitrator's sanctions that, yeah, you did all that, well, then that discipline stays.
That's it.
But our own association backed out on us. And then we talk about other aspects, and one of those things, and I'm just going to give you a snapshot of one chapter, chapter 9. The title is "The Union Attacked Your Religion," and they did. The Union actually said this, quote, "The sheriff has a particular way he lives his life to a higher standard," end quote. Somehow they equated that with religion, but as Doug Clark, former commentary for the Spokesman Review, put it, the sheriff's living his life based on the proper standards, not religious. It doesn't matter. Sex on duty is bad regardless of what standards you're looking at. Right.
Shouldn't you be leading by example?
Exactly.
Wherever it comes from, but shouldn't you be leading by example? I mean, come on, folks. Since we have less than a minute or so, how can people get in touch? How can people get your book?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
All you have to do
is it everything on it?
It is. So I self-published on Amazon. You can go to Amazon, look up The Price of Honor, Are We Who We Say We Are? And there's a reason for that subtitle.
Yeah.
That's a question to all law enforcement CEOs and leaders out there. Do we really believe in all those words we hang on the wall?
Yeah.
All those standards and all those pretty words. Do we really believe in that? And are we willing to risk everything to uphold those standards?
Do we still, as a nation, believe in our Constitution and Bill of Rights?
Yes.
That worries me.
At times I wonder about
and
that.
People I've seen on the internet, on Facebook and so forth, have you read the Constitution? I read it twice all the way through. Some of it's a little boring, okay? It's on my iPad, always has been on my iPad. It's there. That's the backbone of who we are as a country.
I've often
now, how you got there through religious or whatever, okay, that's your business and other people's business. That's the set of standards.
It is, and people forget that. People forget that, and I've asked that question to many people because they'll go, the Constitution, I went, have you read the document? Because what you just said is nowhere in that document.
No, I know.
It's not. You know, folks, you can find the book on Amazon, The Price of Honor, Are We Who We Say We Are? And, you know, I hope you take a look at it. It's a lot of people have read it, and they've taken some insights out of it. One of my professors read it.
Oh, yes.
And he got back to me and says, I've actually used your book in...
Oh, that's nice.
Because he's a department head.
Yeah.
So...
Great.
Folks, this is Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich. We have to wrap it up. I'm getting the firm break from Vinny, so have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by River Ridge Hardware.
Ridge Hardware Garden Center, where we have all the plants and flowers that will spruce up your yard, from the lilacs for Spokane's Lilac City to awesome hanging baskets and pots that you can actually put the hanging baskets in. Here at River Ridge Hardware, we want to help you set up your landscape needs. Neighbors helping neighbors at River Ridge Hardware.